What's going on, guys? Red Gambit here, and I want to talk about Mortal Kombat 11 and is it worth your hard-earned money? Now, Mortal Kombat 11 beta is done, it's dusted, and the game is going to be out on April 23rd. Given how not everyone had a chance to play, I figured that I should really do a breakdown of my experiences, because if you didn't know, basically the game was gated off to everyone who had pre-ordered. If you hadn't pre-ordered, you just couldn't play the game, which I don't agree with, and I wouldn't have done it if I didn't basically run a YouTube channel and make videos like this. I think it's kind of a shitty thing to do, especially when Dead or Alive 6 just came out and it had basically the full game as the beta, which was kind of crazy. So I think that was a bad move on their part, but it is what it is. So that said, before I go any further as well, I just want to mention that I'm not really going to go into the controversy surrounding the game at the moment. If you're not aware about that as well, there's a lot of talk, and I've been part of this as well, so I'm guilty as well, but it's been surrounding the female character designs and basically how they're not showing any skin and they're all very toned down in terms of sexuality. That's not really the topic of discussion here, so I don't want to cover it, but it might be a future video. We'll see how things go. Alright, that said, how does it play is probably the question that you really want to answer, and pretty much the beta had 5 available characters compared to the stress test 3. We had Scorpion, Baraka, Cabal, Jade, and Scarlet. I personally spent several hours playing Scarlet Jade on the first 2 days of the beta, and those are 2 characters that I've never actually touched before in any Mortal Kombat game. Also, I've really only had limited experience in Mortal Kombat 10 playing Cassie Cage, Kitana, and Triborg, and I never really learned a whole lot more than some of the basic combos and playing some scrubby sets online. By the way, those videos are available in the playlists in the section of the YouTube where you can go watch that sort of thing, so if you're curious, just go check that out. So I'm mentioning this because my experience is really going to be that of a newcomer to the series. I'm not an expert at Mortal Kombat, I'm not a seasoned veteran, so in this breakdown I'm probably going to miss or overlook stuff, so feel free to mention it to me in the comments below if I do, just please don't be angry about it. Now, Mortal Kombat 11 is clearly running on the Injustice 2 engine. You don't really need to be a rocket surgeon to figure that one out. And you've probably gathered that it really looks damn good. That shit looked good. It's really rich in detail on the characters, stages, and effects. It's probably the best looking fighting game out at the moment. Well, I mean, not out, but you know, in like 3 weeks. You get the point. It's really, really good, and I can't think of any game that really matches it in terms of that quality of aesthetics. Now, with a new title, there's a lot of new additions to the series. We've got X-rays that have been replaced by fatal blows, crushing blows have been added, a new mechanic like defense gauges as well have been added, as well as a lot of customization options. So let's dive into those and see what they all really mean. Fatal blows replace X-rays, which no longer require meter to be spent. Basically, they're kind of like ultras in Street Fighter 4. Basically, once your health gets low enough, the option to do a fatal blow becomes active. This is an interesting mechanic change, because I really feel like previous Mortal Kombat games really had problems with meter management, in the sense that they were games that they didn't force you, but they really rewarded you more for hanging on to your meter and not spending it unless you're using it in a combo or in Mortal Kombat in terms of a breakaway. They really didn't want you to spend them on things that are big and flashy like extended combos or X-ray moves. So I think that the Mortal Kombat team over at NetherRealm has seen that, and they've decided to basically just shift gears and give you a X-ray move that does not require any meter. It's just there when you have low health, and that's it. Also, what's really interesting about the fatal blows is that even if you block a fatal blow from your opponent, it basically takes that option away from you because you've just used it, but it also comes back a short time later. So the option is still on the table even if you've blocked it. It's not like an Ultra in Street Fighter 4 where once the meter is spent, it's gone. It does come back as long as it's blocked, or basically it doesn't, in any circumstance where it doesn't connect. If the fatal blow does connect and you get the full animation and you get your damage and whatnot, that's it. It's gone. You only get 1 fatal blow per set. So per 2-3 rounds, whatever, there's just the 1 fatal blow. So you have to be quite careful about how you spend it, but at the same time, you just also don't have to be that careful at all. So it really becomes a question of, if I'm going to use a fatal blow, do I really need to use it now, or I'd be better off saving it for later? Crushing blows are added to the game as well. I think these mostly come off of counter hits, or there's some special state to it. I'm honestly 100% not sure. You can definitely tell me if you know that for a fact. What triggers a crushing blow. But they're basically there as combo extenders, so if you hit someone with a crushing blow, it's kind of like crush counters in Street Fighter, where you do get a free follow-up afterwards in most instances. Now, probably the most interesting change to me, and I don't know if this will be in the final game, but it looks like it will be at this stage, is the EX gauge now charges passively regardless of whether you land a hit or not. And this is a really interesting change because it means that the person who's being aggressive is no longer really rewarded for being aggressive. I can't even tell if there's a reward for landing the first hit. It just says first hit props, and that's it. Like, it's acknowledging the fact that you got the first hit, and that's it. So it's really interesting because it takes that advantage away from the person who's attacking and gives it to the person who's defending. So I don't know if this will be a buff to people who like to turtle or not. It's really just one of those wait and see sort of things. I don't know what to make of it right now. I'm not necessarily against it, but I just don't know how basically this is going to change the matter of how the fight actually plays out. Also, a brand new meter has been added for defense as well. This is one that I did not use during the beta, largely because I didn't know how, actually, and I also stopped thinking about it after a while. But it essentially allows you to fall out of juggle state. I don't know if there's any other uses for that, but if someone does a big old extended combo of you and burns some meter and whatnot to keep you in the air, if you use some of that gauge, it will cause you to basically fall out of that state. So again, kind of interesting. It's there just to make sure that people aren't spending their offensive meter on actually getting out of defensive situations. So I think that's a good change overall. I just don't know if it has any further options to it, so let me know if you do know if it does. Runs have also been removed from the game, so you can dash, you can jump, you can walk, but you can't run anymore. And this is probably part of the trend that has been taking place in fighting games for a while now, in terms of simplifying things to make them more accessible. Now, whether you're in favor of that attitude or not, I'm personally in favor of this because when I was trying to learn Cassie Cage, it was really bothering me that I had to learn run-stop combos to basically do big damage. I feel like that I shouldn't be punished for picking a character that I like by getting combos that are really hard to do. So I'm definitely in favor of that, but if you're not, by all means, I mean, it's a personal taste thing. Also, that said, combos still require creativity, timing, and nuance to perform. This is not like Dragon Ball FighterZ or Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, where you can just mash one button to win with an auto combo. You do need to look at the combos that they give you, and look at ways to extend them by burning meter, or you're doing things in the corner, things like that. So there's still definitely an execution barrier to this game. It's just not quite as high as it used to be from what I can tell. Also, while projectiles do seem to be a big part of the game, especially with characters like Scarlet, it's also pretty obvious from just the beta itself that anti-projectile tech is pretty prevalent with a lot of the characters. And I think this is a response to the fact that a lot of previous NetherRealm games like Injustice 1, Injustice 2, Mortal Kombat 10, characters like Deadshot, Superman, and Jackie, just proving really, really strong with zoning. Even in high levels of play, I remember Deadshot and Superman, especially in Injustice, being big problems until they were nerfed several patches later. So it's a good thing that they're basically taking care of that right now, because no one likes dealing with projectile spam at the best of times. Now, you can also spend a great deal of time customizing a character, not just in terms of their appearance, but as well as their variations. This is something which has been carried across from Injustice 2. As such, I think it's a really great idea. I do like having any kind of customization in a fighting game. That said, I would be very surprised if the latter, in terms of being able to customize what kind of moves your character has, will be available in ranked or tournament play. It was available in the beta, but the beta was only endless matches, so they were not ranked matches. Now, the other big kahuna, the netcode. This is very important because NetherRealm games in the past have typically had a lot of trouble with their netcode. Mortal Kombat 10 being a prime example. That game at launch had really bad netcode, and it was somehow even worse on PC from what I was told, so you're right to be wary of netcode in NetherRealm games. But from my experience in the PS4 beta of Mortal Kombat 11, the netcode was actually fantastic. I had very little lag or dropped inputs, even when playing on Wi-Fi. Don't hate. It was really a great experience. I can't think of any times where I really had a match which just felt bad or chuggy or anything like that. There's a couple of instances, obviously, where things felt like they were slowing down for a split second, but overall it was a very positive experience. Now, you cannot filter by region when searching, which seems to be an emerging trend in fighting games. I can't think of the last fighting game. I think it might have been Street Fighter 4. that allowed me to filter by region when searching, which can be a bit of a problem, especially in Street Fighter V when it causes the game to take fucking forever to find an opponent. But that said, you do still have the option to actually go through with the fight or not, which was a bit of a problem in Injustice 2, which is good, and it also shows you whether they are on Wi-Fi or wired if that is really a sticking point for you. Overall, I have very little to complain about in terms of the online experience. The matchmaking was fast, it was fluid, it was really just satisfying, and that's actually a really great sign because I've played my fair share of betas for fighting games, and some of them have been absolutely atrocious in terms of just raw stability. Dragon Ball FighterZ was a great example of that. That game was effectively unplayable in its betas that I played, so this is really positive that the first beta for Mortal Kombat is so smooth and so trouble-free. Now, regarding the game itself, again, very positive. Jade and Scarlet are both fun characters, and whilst characters like Scorpion might seem cheap at first because he does have endless teleport shenanigans, it is balanced enough that those combos that he does are highly punishable on block, and they also do relatively little damage on hit even if he extends them with meter, so it's a good thing. I never really felt like I was picking a bad character. I always felt like I had options when I was playing online. The game plays pretty much exactly how I'd expect a Mortal Kombat to play for the most part, and when it doesn't, it's usually because it's been improved in some way or another. So if you're a Mortal Kombat veteran, I can't tell you for a fact this will be exactly what you're looking for, but it does look very positive from my own experiences. Now, should you get the game or not? That's really what this video is all about, and essentially it just comes down to personal taste. From a mechanical and gameplay standpoint, it's looking very strong. This is probably going to be the best entry in the series to date. It's likely to have a healthy life ahead of it in terms of player population. The only thing that could really cripple the game at this point is if NetherRealm go ahead and make some big mistakes regarding microtransactions and DLC. So whether you buy this game or not really just comes down to whether you like the look of it, whether the aesthetic does it for you, whether you like the gore, whether there's characters that you like, that kind of thing. It's not going to be a question of whether the value proposition is there, because NetherRealm games typically have a really solid value proposition. They usually have a lot of single player content, their story modes are second to none, there's no one who does story modes as well as NetherRealm. It's looking really good, that's what I'm trying to say. Anyways, that's it for me, guys. That's my experience with the beta. I hope this was informative and helpful for you. And by all means, let me know if your experience was any different in the beta. Maybe you had a much harder time online. Maybe it wasn't stable for you. It'd be really good to know about those sort of things in the comments below in case I'm out here peddling misinformation. I don't know. Let me know if that's your experience. But you know what time it is, guys. Kisses, hugs, belly rubs. I will see all of you very soon.